Hi Ray, Professor Ball here. How's it going? During the course of the semester, you are going to get feedback from me either like you did last time, where I inserted comments into your paper, or this time where you get a video. So let's get started. The first thing that I look at with your papers is MLA format. So it looks like you have everything you need here, and then you have your title. And since it's different from that, that's really good. The wrongful conviction of an innocent man or woman can be extremely devastating to one's mental health, their reputation, cause heartbreak to their loved ones, anger, frustration, and many other feelings. Spending any amount of time in prison due to any number of errors or a poorly completed investigation is a travesty. State and federal governments offer very little, if at all, assistance, compensation, or other resources for wrongly convicted individuals who spend time in prison. State and federal law enforcement agencies or courts are not held to the same standard of responsibility than that of your average citizen for the fear of backlash from the community for incompetence, misconduct, or embarrassment. There needs to be accountability and repercussions for those involved in any and all wrongful convictions. So you start off well, you are introducing your topic. If I was being really nitpicky, unless your paper is really long, which it's not, I would probably bring this up because you're going a little more specific. A report by 60 Minutes on January 10th, 2016, called Life After Death Row, talks about the experience of two men and one woman that were imprisoned for crimes they did not commit. Primarily through, the segment shared details about a man named Anthony Ray Hinton. Hinton and the two other former mistaken convicts were interviewed by 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley. Pelley's news segment had a very serious mood to it. Okay, so now you're getting into like the meat of your paper. I'm not seeing a thesis yet, which addresses the prompt, which is where you tell the reader that you're going to look at audience, purpose, tone, and how the reporter makes their case, what type of evidence they use. You can refer back to the two sample papers, the student sample essays, for what I'm talking about. The intended audience is likely older and more mature people, as the details and information would be comprehended much better by an older age group. That is true. And in the last several years, 60 Minutes does have a much older audience anyway. Even though all three individuals suffered wrongful convictions, all three were affected much differently after their exonerations. All right. So you need your thesis. And here is where I see you really getting into the paper. The producers of the segment use very close-up shots of each individual while they share their story. That's your point. This gives the audience a very personal, intimate feeling of a one-on-one conversation with the individuals, so you can actually see the feelings of pain, frustration, and relief, for example, during their stories. You're going to see me point out some things that I may not mention. Mostly these are the lower order concerns as compared to higher order concerns for your error log and future papers. The hardships these people endured for something they did not do took an immense toll on them, and no matter what they may receive in compensation, it'll never restore the time they lost. Bless you. There were pictures of all three individuals showing various points in time during their trials. And here you could do period or trials, for example. But it was the pictures of their post-release life that were much more joyous. The 60 Minutes producers and Pelley did a great job at tugging the audience emotions in a roller coaster fashion. Even though the entire segment spoke of three individuals, it mostly concentrated on the experiences of Mr. Hinton and what he endured before, during, and after his false imprisonment. So your point here is the close-ups. So here, for your pie, we're looking for the explanation of the close-ups. Why is this, important or interesting or significant? At the age of 30 in 1985 in the state of Alabama, Hinton was misidentified by a witness to one of three shootings. Two of those shootings resulted in the deaths of two restaurant managers. Hinton had been convicted of a theft crime in his past, and the witnesses had pointed out his picture in a mugshot book. During a search of Hinton's mother's home, a gun was found and was used as evidence in 3 shootings. Okay, it sounds like you're just summarizing the story here, Ray. This should be up at your introduction. Hinton was tried and convicted of murder and sentenced to death. Hinton said to Pelley that during the search of his mother's home, a law enforcement lieutenant had stated, you're going to be convicted. You have a white man who says you shot him. You have a white district attorney, a white judge, a white jury, more than likely. All that spells conviction. Hinton was, in fact, convicted, and it wasn't until the age of 57, 30 years later, that the United States Supreme Court ruled that his defense was ineffective. Modern ballistic tests found that the gun that was found in Hinton's mother's home was not the murder weapon in the crimes he was charged for. All right, so nicely written. What is your point? Is it about the purpose, the audience, the tone? Is it data? Is it statistics? Is it imagery? Is it visuals? Is it music? You don't have a point here. You're just summarizing the video. Hinton recalled to Pelley that the state of Alabama did not have the decency to give even the slightest apology from any local or state government officials since he was released. His charges were dropped completely, but there is no aid offered by the state of Alabama. There is no money offered to Hinton as a form of compensation, no clothing offered to leave prison in, no housing or any kind of employment assistance, nothing. An attorney who was interviewed during this segment, named Brian Stevenson, states to Pelley, this has nothing to do with luck. This has nothing to do with the way we treat those who are vulnerable in our criminal justice system. Unfortunately, the state of Alabama had only issued compensation to one of the 41 exonerees that have ever applied. Wow. Clearly, the odds are against Hinton, and there's no criminal repercussions against the Alabama court system in sight, reiterating the imbalance in justice for citizens and law enforcement or government officials. So again, nicely written. What is your point? Is it the fact that Pelley used interviews to make his case? That would be your point. This would be your illustration about what Stevenson said, and then you would explain what it was that is important or interesting about using these interviews. All right, so according to Pelley, about 10 times a month, an innocent free person is freed from an American prison. The problem is that very few states offer any kind of support for the life after prison for those who do not know any better. Going to prison for any length of time can ruin all aspects of your life. Oops. Like your reputation, finances, future employment, and mental health, just to name a few. All right. So the writing here is fine, Ray, but you really don't answer the prompt. And just as a reminder, the prompt would be, you do address a little bit about the purpose and audience and tone. But there needs to be more of this, and more of this, more of this. And one of the things that I mentioned in the prompt and in the video that I posted and the announcements is, this is a part of it too, this little bit of research. And for this one, you would look at, well, what is going on in the state of Alabama, or what is going on in other states, or people who are what's the word, miss what? You know what I'm talking about. People who are sent to jail for when they were innocent. So the writing here is fine, but you missed the part of the prompt where I talked about research, and I needed a little more analysis because what I'm seeing here is just you telling me about the video, except for this one paragraph about the close-up shots. There is discussion about the mood, but the mood should be the point. Or, did they actually talk to the police lieutenant? That would be something that you could use. So let's look at your works cited page. This needs to be centered. And then what you would have would be Pelley, Scott, and then this information, and then the period. You'd also need the date that you found the video. So there you go. You can revise one paper. This might be it. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.